Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? Well, sometimes you get a couple things wrong. And yesterday I got a couple things wrong. And so I want to talk a little bit more about this Ogre. But it's really not about the Ogre. It's really not about 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. It's really not about Lamentations of the Flame Princess. It's more about game design intention. Like what are these designers are actually really intending? Is it a game experience? What kind of game experience? What are their motivations for that? I find this stuff fascinating. So sometimes it's going to sound a little bit like it's anti 5th edition or anti Pathfinder. That's not my intention at all. But I had a couple commenters that gave me a little bit better information because I looked at the 5th edition SRD a long time ago because I really wanted to like the game. And I was interested, and part of my intention at the time was, it looked like if you wanted to play with people, that was the game you're going to have to play. And I knew I didn't like Pathfinder, and I knew it was the edition that they kind of, were trying to get people to get together and sing Kumbaya. They wanted to appeal to the 4th edition people, to the Pathfinder people, 3rd edition people, to the old school people. I think they did a pretty good job with it. It turns out it's not for me, because I actually looked at a bunch of it, but I forgot a lot of what I read, so I made some mistakes, because I'd read it quite some time ago. So some of my commenters, I'm going to mess up their names, Asha Bega actually gave me some great information, along with Jordan Raymond. Actually, Morgan Jones actually, talked about the idea that hit points as being like luck or combat mojo has been around for a long time. And I mentioned that Tim Kask said the same thing. So if you're not sure who Tim Kask is, because I probably should have explained it, he's been playing since 1974, since the original 3 books came out, and he was the guy that kind of helped Gary midwife AD&D. So they were playing that way a long time ago, was my point. I was just glad that 5th edition had actually put a little blurb about that, and they were still kind of explaining that's how it really works. Anyhow, a little house cleaning there. But I don't want to spend a lot of time on the math because that's not what this video is about, and it's really not about this damn ogre. But let's go back here, and I'll just talk a little bit. I'll just start out with our first level characters here. So our 5th edition ogre, he's got 59 hit points. I guess he's got an armor class of about 11. Our 1st edition fighter, apparently he's going to have an attack bonus on average of +5, +2 for his proficiency right off the gate, and they said about +3 for his ability score. So that's pretty heavy duty. That's part of this inflation that I want to talk about a little bit. So you're talking about like I think a 16 or 17 strength at that point, which is pretty heavy duty. So he's going to be doing D8 +5 damage. So on an average hit, he's going to be doing 9.5 points of damage. He's going to hit this over 75% of the time, so his damage per round is going to be 7.125. Our ogre's got 59 hit points, so it's going to take him 9 rounds to kill this ogre. One of my commenters pointed out, well, the ogre's really designed to be taken on by a party, not by one character. It's going to be a party. Well, nobody told the ogre that. I'll tell you what. In my world, the ogre wants to win, and he's going to pick you off. But that's another design intention. Yeah, and so that's a discussion probably for another day. You look at Lamentations of the Flame Princess, on the other hand, you got our guy, he's got a +3 attack bonus, our 1st level fighter. Why is it +3? 1st level fighters start out with a +2 attack bonus. He's probably going to have a strength of 13 to 15, in which case he'll have a +1 to hit. It's very rare. You're rolling 46, drop low, and to get a 16, 17, or 18 on that, it's really exceptional. It's not a stat array. It's not a point buy. This is, you roll and you find out what your character's like. I played a lot of fighters that didn't have any kind of pluses at all. But we're going to be generous. This guy's, doing D8 +1 damage. That's a house rule of mine that I let them, because Lamentations doesn't give you a strength bonus to your damage. But he's going to hit this ogre 60% of the time. He's going to do 5.5 points of damage on a successful hit. He's going to be doing 3.3 damage per round. It's going to take him 6 rounds to kill that ogre. However, you're saying, Ivan, you're being unfair, because you gave him that extra, damage. So, okay, fine. So let's take away that extra damage. He does D8. He's going to be doing 2.7 damage per round. It's going to take him 7 rounds to kill the ogre. So 9 rounds, 7 rounds, 6 rounds. Not all that significant. So it's not as big of a gap as I thought it was. However, part of the vibe. I have a lot of experience. Not a lot of experience, but experience playing Pathfinder, and those combats lasted forever. I think part of the marketing that they did for 5th edition D&D, especially some of the last minute stuff, if I understand correctly, was they squished down the armor classes because they want you to hit more often. The combats still last a long time. I have friends that play, and they complain about the fact that they still last a long time. Maybe not as long as Pathfinder, but you can do a Lamentations or like a Ubiquity, like All for One combat, and it's bam. It's over really fast. And some of the commenters mentioned, part of the thing with that is there's going to be all these different powers, there's going to be all these different moves, all these different feats. It's going to take a while for each person, even though there's going to be maybe not too many more rounds. There's a lot more stuff to do in those rounds, and people are going to be making all these decisions and whatnot. And I think that's part of the focus of the game is it's like tactical combat. Excuse me. Yeah. Anyhow. And that is definitely part of the selling point of the game. That's part of the focus of that game. However, one of the focuses of that game, I'm not picking on 5th edition. This is not really about 5th edition because it seems there's a lot of games out now which really promote a high level of success. You succeed 75, 80% of the time on most things. And these game designers and companies are not stupid. There's a certain group of players that prefer that real super heroic tier. I've talked about that before, the kind of like normal, heroic, and super heroic. And 5th edition D&D lives firmly within that super heroic tier. Feat. It's right there in that super heroic tier. So I'm not picking on 5th edition D&D. And also, what it seems to do, though, is not just for people that are gamers that really like that. Wizards of the Coast isn't stupid. They want other people that aren't gamers to get into gaming. And it's exciting. You hit the monster an awful lot. You're doing an awful lot of damage. The monster may have a lot of hit points, but you're not just doing straight, D8. You're adding all these bonuses to it. It can be really exciting. It can be really neat. They're not dumb. They want people to experience a lot of success, and not just in the combat. All the other kind of stuff you do. If your character's supposed to be good at it, a lot of games tend to promote that you succeed an awful lot. The games, and I don't want to say just older games, because there's games that are coming out right now, like when I play the Ubiquity games. You're good at something, you're going to succeed. If you're really good, maybe you succeed 65% of the time. Maybe there's a lot of other things that you're okay at, but maybe you're only succeeding like 35% of the time, 50% of the time. It's a different mindset. You get a person like me, and this is just a preference thing, but if I succeed too much, then to me it becomes cheap. And I've said this before, but I feel like Kirk in the Nexus, in that Generations movie where I'm jumping over the gorge over and over and over again, and I realize I just can't miss. I'm not missing very often. I prefer games, whatever the game is, where I'm like exploring what is it really going to be like to be a real person, whoever these people are like, in this real situation. What it would really be like. And it may be gritty. It may be dark. I may get the crap beat out of me. I may not succeed an awful lot. I may have to run from the freaking ogre, or whatever it is, for my life, as opposed to being a big badass hero all the time. And if that's your shtick, though, if you like that, I'm not knocking it. But it's interesting, how different games are designed, with different, and not just like how narrative they are or anything else, but how often you succeed. That's something that a group of friends and I have been talking about. All the various ramifications for that. I believe, in some games, it's been done, to promote, to give people that like that kind of feel, super heroic feel what they want. But also, I believe there's some that's been done in the sake of marketing, for the sake of marketing. I'm not saying that's bad, but it's just something I've looked at and kind of realized. Sometimes games are designed to, and their intention is to create a certain play experience, and sometimes they're being designed to create experience, but also to sell more games. So, anyhow, not a critique, but just kind of like that. That's kind of the direction I was kind of going in when I made that first video. And I made a video a long time ago, probably 2 years ago, talking about like inflation in D&D specifically, and how I like things to be a little more squished. Something like games like Ubiquity, like Hollow Earth Expedition, like All for One Regime Diablo. You've got a health of 5. The combat's very, very fast, very, very deadly. I like that kind of stuff. It may not be all that epic and heroic in this big, long, protracted battle. It's more like at any moment this guy could kill you, or you could kill him. I kind of dig that. It's not for everybody, but I enjoy it. So what do you think about all that?